today I'm going to be going over all of the leaks sent to me in the past couple of weeks by this leaker who claims to know a lot about Resident Evil 9, and he actually seems to be very credible considering Capcom themselves are now hinting at the reveal of the game being around the time that he said the game would be getting revealed. So make sure to grab your popcorn, kick your feet up, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss an update on the Resident Evil series. And now with all that being said, let's get into the leaks. Hello everybody and welcome back to Bagels TV. Today I will be going over some of the biggest Resident Evil leaks I've ever heard or seen before, which come to me through Discord by a user whose name I will be blurring out. He told me he decided to contact me after seeing my last Resident Evil 9 video to inform me that there is no co-op mode in the works for the game as of right now, before telling me that he has important story points and screenshots of the trailer. So I told him to prove it by sending over some screenshots, which he did, and I'll be showing them to you right now. But before we do that, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss an update on the Resident Evil series, and to help me reach 2100 by the end of the month. And now with all that being said, let's get back to the video. He sent me over this screenshot, which he says is from the first trailer that will be releasing in May, and it looks to be of some kind of forest during the nighttime, but your guess is as good as mine, I don't know. And I said that's interesting, but you did say you have screenshots as in more than one, right? To which he replied, of course, before sending me back this screenshot, which looks to be of some kind of castle. So I asked, is that supposed to be a castle? And he said no, it's meant to look scary in the trailer, but truthfully it's the house of one of the village insiders who acts as if he's part of the cult while secretly helping the player by giving them insider information and advice on how to navigate through the game. And I'm thinking the same thing you guys are. How do I know he didn't just pull some random images off of Google and send them to me claiming that they're the trailer so we could be in a video? Well, let's go reverse image search these real quick to see what we come up with. Here we are on Google image search, and I don't see any direct matches, which is actually really interesting because usually these leaks don't end up being very accurate, but this one looks to be legit. So let's go to the next image. Same thing with this picture, no direct matches, although it is pulling up a lot of pictures of castles, so I wasn't completely off by assuming that's what that picture was. But once again, I don't see pretty much anything at all that really even has like the same feel to it. I guess this looks kind of similar, but clearly isn't the same image, and none of these, well, I don't really know what else to say. It's not coming up. But anyway, back to the leaks. I asked him to tell me more about the game, and he replied by saying the game takes place directly after the first ending of Resident Evil Village, and although Chris and Jill will both be playable at different points throughout the story, the main character that you'll play as for most of the campaign is a woman named Lauren. So I asked who she is, and then he said she's a local detective with years of experience, but never in her life has she seen this many murders take place in 1 month. And then he states that the game will be complete horror, even leaning further into it than Resident Evil 7, and it'll be an open world experience with Lauren's house being the main area, but you could go outside and drive anywhere at any time after meeting Chris. My first thought was an open world Resident Evil 9 could either be a complete masterpiece or a complete disaster. It all rests in the hands of Capcom and how they want to execute the game. And then I remembered that he said this game takes place in a small village, which I don't recall that being Chris's destination at the end of Resident Evil 8, so I asked him, isn't Chris going after the BSAA? Why and how does he end up in another small town? And with absolutely no hesitation, he replied by saying the helicopter is forced to make a crash landing after the pilot was shot in the head by a local sniper in the game. But everyone survives the crash with the exception of the pilot, of course, so Chris and the Hound Wolf squad start looking around the village and decide to stay for a while after meeting Lauren at a local restaurant and discussing all the recent murders taking place in the city. And after this conversation, Chris joins the investigation, thinking that it's some kind of BOW that's causing all the murders. So he asks Lauren if Mia and Rose could stay with her for a while until they solve the case. And she says yes, stating, yeah, sure, I've been needing more company. Being alone with my thoughts drives me crazy sometimes, in a joking manner. And I asked if that's how the game starts, and he said no. The game starts with Lauren watching a news report about 54 homicides taking place within the last 28 days, and how they still haven't caught the killer yet and don't even have a single suspect. But they know that all the murders are connected because every time they find a body, there's always the same diamond-shaped symbol carved into the palm of the left hand. And then Lauren gets up and goes over to her friend's house where she tells Lauren about the rumors of a secret cult that was taken down by the townspeople exactly 50 years ago from the day that the first 4 murders took place. And their logo had the same diamond shape that was being carved into the dead people. In the game, of course. And Lauren asks why the news isn't talking about this, and she tells her that her suspicion is that the media was paid off by the cult to keep everything top secret, and that's why none of the townspeople know anything about the cult. And after a while, Lauren leaves to go get some food and runs into Chris and the Hound Wolf Squad, and that's where the sequence I was talking about earlier takes place. I asked, "How do you know all this?" And then he responded by saying, "I watched the playtest for the first hour of the game alongside 10 to 12 other people. Then I asked for pictures, obviously, but he said no, they made us turn our phones off. So then I tone it down and ask a more simple question like, is the game first person like Resident Evil 7 and 8? To which he replied, it's a blend of first and third person. Then I said like Resident Evil Dead Aim, and he said not really, no. But there are side quests, or as they call them in this game, side missions, and they work very similar to the RE4 remake, where you'll pick up a flyer and it'll have a mission on it. And once you complete it, you get money that you could use at one of the many stores around the town. And eventually you'll come across an even smaller village just outside of the main one, and this one is taken over by the cult, who forced everyone to either join them or be publicly executed. And it's in this village where you meet the man in this house, and then he puts up this screenshot. And he gives you a uniform so you could go undercover as one of the cult members and investigate. Then I asked about the BOWs in the game by saying, do zombies return, are there Ganado-like enemies, or what does the combat look like? And he said there was no BOWs at all and pretty much no combat aside from maybe one encounter throughout the whole hour-long demo that I saw. The game is mainly focused on horror and story, but that's all that I can share. What do you guys think about this? Do these screenshots get you excited for Resident Evil 9? After I uploaded that last video, I got back in contact with the leaker and asked him what he knew about Jill's section in Resident Evil 9, since he did say you will be able to play as her. And he said yes, you will be able to play as Jill for about 15 minutes out of the 1 hour that I watched, and it's very similar to Mia's segment in Resident Evil 7 in the sense of there being a lot of flashbacks. Then I asked the leaker about said flashbacks, to which he replied, most of the flashbacks are playable but scripted sequences, with one of them having you walk through the halls of Wesker's lab, and one of them where you're eating lunch with the STARS Alpha team 5 days before the events of Resident Evil 1. And the most interesting out of all of them takes place in a mental hospital sometime between Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6. And in this segment you'll be able to interact with NPCs who are also being held there. One of the people, a man named Montgomery, was locked up because he kept saying that he could predict the future, and if you interact with him in the game, he will foresee the events of Resident Evil 6 perfectly. And another lady, Beth, says that Jill is the chosen one and the only person who could stop the planet from impending doom. This could just be because she's crazy, or it could mean something bigger later on in the game, but I'm not sure. Then I ask what happens outside of the flashbacks, to which he replies, the first time we see Jill is when she receives a phone call from Tundra of the Hound Wolf Squad, informing her of the crimes taking place in the town and telling her that Chris thinks there might be BOWs involved. And when Jill hears the word BOW, she starts having the flashbacks. Her section ends with her snapping out of it and telling Tundra that she's on her way before the camera cuts back to Chris talking to Lauren. Then I pretty much said that's cool, but what kind of role does she play? Then he responded with, once again, I only saw about an hour of gameplay, but from what I saw, she's kinda like how Chris was during the second half of Resident Evil Village. She'll mainly be a supportive character, but she will have some playable sections throughout the game. And he said that was about all he saw, but what do you guys think? Hello everyone and welcome back to Bagels TV. Today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Sony State of Play and how it is more than likely that we'll be seeing Resident Evil 9's announcement at this event. So before we begin, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss an update on the Resident Evil series. And now without any further ado, let's get into it. If you've seen my last couple of videos, you would know that some dude messaged me claiming to be an insider at Capcom and telling me he knows all of this stuff about Resident Evil 9, and I'm not going to go over all of it today. I'm just going to go over what's relevant to this video, which is that he said that Resident Evil 9 would be announced on May 22nd, 2025 at a PlayStation State of Play. And when I put that video out, everybody was skeptical, including myself. But now that we basically have confirmation of a PlayStation State of Play happening later in May, it's seeming more likely than ever that this dude turns out to be legit. And I know a bunch of you are probably thinking, how exactly do we know a PlayStation State of Play is coming soon? And to that I would say that several mainstream well-known gaming insiders have come out and said that there will be a PlayStation State of Play in May, such as TCMF Games, Detective Seeds, and more. With TCMF Games saying, according to Jeff Grubb, Sony is set to have an event this summer. Sony is deciding between a showcase and a State of Play. Based on previous years, I think this could happen in May, before Summer Games Fest. It sounds pretty interesting to me, especially when taking into consideration what that leaker said about there being a PlayStation State of Play on May 22nd. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and while you're down there, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons so you never miss an update on the Resident Evil series. And watch this video right here if you want to see all the leaks that I was talking about in this video. And now, with all that being said, I'll see you all next time on Bagels TV. If you've been following the channel for a while now, or at least for the last 2 to 3 videos, you'd know that there's this dude who claims to be an insider at Capcom, and he says he has all this information about Resident Evil 9. And I didn't believe him at first, because literally everybody is a leaker nowadays, everybody's a gaming insider, everybody knows something about some video game. So I didn't believe him, so I asked him to show me proof. And then he sent over 2 screenshots of Resident Evil 9's reveal trailer, or at least what he said was Resident Evil 9's reveal trailer, and then I was pretty convinced when I reverse image searched them and came back with nothing. But then he sent me over a story with so many details that I was thinking that this dude's either like a professional book author or something, or he actually knows a little bit about this game. So now I'm pretty convinced that he's the real deal. He even sent me over a whole bunch of information about Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield in Resident Evil 9, and now he's back and he sent me 3 screenshots, which I'm going to be going over individually, with the first one saying May 22nd, 2025, with the caption trailer et SOP, which I think he's referring to State of Play when he says SOP, which Capcom is notorious for revealing Resident Evil games at these State of Play events, especially since E3 got cancelled back in 2020. Every single Resident Evil game since the RE3 remake, I believe, was revealed at a State of Play. That includes Resident Evil 3 Remake, Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and RE Resistance and RE Verse. They were all revealed at these State of Play event, and what's interesting is that he gives an exact date, which usually these people don't do, because when they give these exact dates and they end up being wrong, then they get proven wrong very quickly. And this dude put a date that's very close to now, which is really interesting. So with everything combined, everything that this guy sent over, all the screenshots, stories, leaks, everything this dude has sent over, now he's sending over a date for the trailer's release. I believe that he might be telling the truth, but anyway, then he sent over a screenshot that says September 27th, 2025, with the caption at TGS. The gaming event he's referring to here is Tokyo Game Show, which they did announce the Resident Evil showcase at 2022's Tokyo Game Show, but I don't know what this is even for though. I don't know if he's referring to a demo or a second trailer, or he could even be referring to just some gameplay, some announcement, a release date announcement, something. I really don't know. But if I had to guess, I would say he's talking about this being the demo, but I could really be wrong. I have no idea, but I don't think I'm wrong, because he sent over this third image, February 13th, 2026, with the caption, you know, which I'm pretty sure he's talking about the release date here. He could either be talking about release date or the demo. I'm really not sure. But if I had to guess the meaning of all 3 of these images, I would say the first one is obviously the reveal trailer, the second one would be the demo, and the third is the release date for Resident Evil 9. But the only thing that has me hesitant to say that the second one is the demo is that it's about 4 months before the release of the game, which seems like kind of a long time, but then again, Capcom did do that exact same thing with Resident Evil Village. I think they released the first demo in December and then released the game in May. If I'm not 100% sure, but I think that might be how they did it. But tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think this dude is legit? And if so, are you excited for Resident Evil 9? And what do you think these 3 dates mean? Do you think that they're for release dates, demos, trailers? What do you think? Make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss an update on the Resident Evil series. And if you've seen my last couple of videos, you would know that some dude messaged me claiming to be an insider at Capcom and telling me he knows all of this stuff about Resident Evil 9. And I'm not going to go over all of it today. I'm just going to go over what's relevant to this video, which is that he said that Resident Evil 9 would be announced on May 22nd, 2025 at a PlayStation State of Play. And when I put that video out, everybody was skeptical, including myself. But now that we basically have confirmation of a PlayStation State of Play happening later in May, it's seeming more likely than ever that this dude turns out to be legit. And I know a bunch of you are probably thinking, how exactly do we know a PlayStation State of Play is coming soon? And to that I would say that several mainstream well-known gaming insiders have come out and said that there will be a PlayStation State of Play in May, such as TCMF Games, Detective Seeds, and more. With TCMF Games saying, according to Jeff Grubb, Sony is set to have an event this summer. Sony is deciding between a showcase and a State of Play. Based on previous years, I think this could happen in May, before Summer Games Fest. It sounds pretty interesting to me, especially when taking into consideration what that leaker said about there being a PlayStation State of Play on May 22nd. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and while you're down there, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons so you never miss an update on the Resident Evil series. And watch this video right here if you want to see all the leaks that I was talking about in this video. And now, with all that being said, I'll see you all next time on Bagels TV.